All right, welcome back to the Chefpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Chef Andre Sinajosa. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Today, we have a very, very special guest, a great chef, great guy. Can't wait to talk to him. We'll bring him up just in a minute. We have Chef Dan Ninroll with us. But before we get into that, make sure, guys, that if you're following us, that you're subscribing to the podcast, subscribing to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're sharing it. Make sure you like this video. And so, with that being said, without further ado, let's bring up Chef Dan. Really excited to talk to you. Chef, how are you doing today, my friend?
I was doing okay, but now I'm on your podcast. I'm doing great.
Okay. Yeah, we were having a little bit of tech, right,
Yeah.
issues here behind the scenes, which literally it happens, but it ain't going to stop us. We're going to make it happen, my friend. So, Chef, well, first of all, thanks for taking the time out. It's good to talk to you, not only on the podcast, but we haven't spoken a while, and it's good to just connect with you. And really, what I wanted to do is before we kind of dive into, to like just kind of an open dialogue discussion, really like to interview you. I'd like for you to discuss just a little bit about your background for everybody. For those of you that, for those of them that don't know you, obviously, just kind of share with us a little bit about who you are and your background.
Yeah. So again, my name's Dan Ninarell, and I was a corporate hack for well over 30 years, and I worked in finance. I worked in supply chain and logistics, and you know, everybody during COVID, they sent everybody home. And, I'm sitting here in my office, which is right here, and right behind me is my TV where I have my YouTube. And I'm thinking, man, when am I gonna like retire, right? I'm looking at the end and I'm thinking like, I don't know. I got more gas in the tank. What do I want to do? And like I said, we're 100% remote. We're home. And I'm thinking, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I don't want to retire. I want to do something. I've always cooked. I've been cooking. When I was much younger. Single guy living in an apartment. I was watching. Great chefs of the West, great chefs of the world. Emerald, all those PBS series that were on. Saturday afternoon, and that's how I learned how to cook. My mom, God bless my mom. She Sunday meal was the best. I have an Italian background. We always had some kind of
Mm.
pasta.
Oh yeah.
Love that. But during the week, so I became self-taught, by watching. At that time it was TV. This is before internet. And fast forward to that point I was telling you, with COVID, they sent everybody home.
Mm.
What am I going to do? And here comes Chef Andres. Hey, we help kitchen cooks and home cooks start their own culinary business. And I'm like, okay, all right, what's this about? Right. So we scheduled a call, and, he walked me through the process. And I'm like, well, God, I've been doing this for a long time. This is something they say, follow your passion and, do what you like to do. And I'm like, I want to do this. So, Chef Andres was my coach, my mentor. He helped me establish my business that I have today. That's growing, and that's just a teaser. We'll talk more about it when we get into the interview. But I'm grateful to be here talking to this man.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Well, I think that your story has always resonated with a lot of people. To be honest, I don't, it's hard for me to resonate on well, I wasn't necessarily as your quote because I was, reading the kind of the podcast guest sheet here that you kind of filled out. And I just love that you put corporate hack just
Corporate hack.
because it just sounds funny, right? Just saying the word corporate hack. But I mean, I was a corporate chef in hotels for all my career. So I guess I can relate on that corporate side. But I know that you're talking more about probably office type
Working in
of corporate.
cubicles and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. And so I
Right.
can't empathize with that, but I think there's a lot of people that can. And tell me, Chef, a little bit about, because I want to just kind of dig in a little bit more to that. Not necessarily on the corporate side, but what's your background before food? Like, what were you in?
Well, when I was 18 years old, my girlfriend at the time, I was dating her, and I'd go over her house, nice neighborhood. Her dad always had nice clothes, nice car. I said, "What's your dad do?" And he's like, "Oh, he's in transportation. He's a salesman for a transportation company." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "You want to see if he can get you a job?" I'm like, "Yeah." So here I am. I'm 18 years old. Her dad got me a job, loading and unloading trucks on the docks of South Philadelphia. That's what I did, right? I graduated high school. I didn't go to college right away.
South
I
Philly, baby.
started, yeah, I started working on the docks, and next thing you know, 10 years. I'm thinking back. I'm like, wow. I said, because I moved up. I from the dock to supervisor in the office, management and all that, and that became my career, supply chain and logistics before everybody knew what
Wow.
that was.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah, no, so really, I mean, to say it, yes, you ended up kind of in the corporate quote unquote kind of cubicle hack, but job as you call it. Again, I think it's just funny when you say that way. But what I like is that you came up through the ranks kind of as like a skilled laborer to a degree, right? I mean, to say it to that way, like you're doing the grunt work, but then you moved up into the logistics and kind of the overseeing and worked your way up, which is pretty impressive, to say the least. And you were talking about your mom, chef. Was it your mom or your grandmother you said on the Sundays, on the Sunday dinners?
My mother, but my grandmothers, I mean, they were from Italy or first generation, so they always brought it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Now, just as a simple, just like topic of like relating, is it marinara or is it a Sunday gravy?
All right. So you're gonna drag me into that early into the interview, right? It's
Oh, I got to a
sauce.
little bit. I just got to get the
It's
spices flowing.
All right, it's sauce. Like I always think the New York people, New York's about 2 hours north of us. I live in the greater Philly area, and that gravy stuff. But a lot of South Philly Italians, they call it gravy, and we have this argument, a fun argument. So I ask like off the boat Italians all the time, "What do you call this?" And they said sugo. I said sugo. I said that's sugar, right? Or sauce, right? And they're like, "Yeah, sauce." So I'm like, sauce. There it is, and they still don't believe it.
Yeah, I love that. I like how you said that off the boat Italians. That's like the
Yeah.
legit, the
That's you
authentic,
go to the source.
authentic stuff. That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
as you started to move into this, chef, I mean, again, I know your story very well, but again, I'm just kind of putting this out there for a lot of people that don't, right? The aspect of it, like, give us a little bit of background about your business. What is the business name, and why was that such an important factor in what you're doing, of like how you kind of we came up with that concept? But just kind of give us the name of the personal chef business that you have, and tell us a little bit more about why.
All right. So again, I started this before I came on with you, and the name of my business, actually, my LLC name is Dan's Classic Cuisine, DBA Modern Classical Chefs. I added that after the fact, right?
Hmm.
So we're having our Chefpreneur day, when we flesh everything out. And Chef so wisely says to me, she's like, "He said, okay, Dan, that's good, that's good. But what are you gonna do when you know your customer, she can't get Chef Dan, and they get like Chef Mary or Chef Jonathan, and they don't get you?" And I'm like, I didn't really think about that, right? And I don't want my whole vibe to be like, you go to Europe. I love travel. I love,
Mm,
Europe is my favorite. I mean, I love it. And I want to have some kind of European vibe, the way they do things over there with the slow down dinners. It takes 3, 4 hours, between the courses, and you have wine, everybody's talking. I mean, that's the way to do it. The Europeans know how to do it. And if
yeah.
I can somehow translate that into a in-home dining experience, that's what I want to do. So you actually came up with the name Modern Classical Chefs because I told him I wanted to do like an homage to the classics. A lot of dishes that a lot of chefs don't make anymore. They're just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But now like very sauce, very labor intensive. Now there's a lot of modern, I don't want to say shortcuts because, that's, you don't shortcut quality, but there's different modern procedures you do now, and that's the modern part of it. So you can have like a steak Diane, right? Who makes that, right? Or who
Yeah.
does a Caesar salad table side? Like I absolutely love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the modern classical chefs.
Oh man, I love it. I think that's something that, and the reason I asked that question was I really wanted to get you to really kind of communicate that to everyone. If somebody's watching this who's, wanting to hire a personal chef in the Philadelphia area, right? And the biggest things is that I just remember that day like it was yesterday when we were kind of like, and you were saying it so poetically like you did now, which is like I really want that feeling and that invocation of that European, I guess you would say, speed, right? Like, and I think you're right. I actually I know you're right. Like, I talk about this all the time with
Well,
even
it's not a
people,
speed, it's slowed down.
yeah,
That
that's what I'm saying.
over
Like
there they
it's
slow it down. Here it's like you're in and out in like an hour. It's sometimes too long for people.
correct. Correct. Exactly. So that's what I mean. Like this slower speed, the slower lifestyle,
Mhm.
you're extracting more of, sometimes just breathing, right? Like you work so hard. And I think in America, there is this culture where it is. I mean, we're in a way, kind of inventors of fast food, right? The industry. And because we're busy working, we're busy being busy. And in Europe, they take a very different approach, right? And so
Right.
they'll kind of stop everything they're doing. Not that there's any ambition or anybody that's busy in Europe, of course, but they'll stop what they're doing. They'll kind of take a breath. It's kind of like a metaphorically a way to like stop and smell the roses, right? Like you're eating, you're dining, you're enjoying each other's company. And I think that a lot of people look at a personal chef business and they think that, some people again do it for the experience. Of course, a lot of them do. Some people that are doing different types of meal prep services that are hiring chefs, they're doing it more for convenience. They're doing it more for maybe even nutrition and health. But I think that when you really think about it, and I was thinking about this before the show with what you offer, your brand has always stuck out to me that way because of that European lifestyle. And I think you really transporting your clients and your customers and your guests like into that not only mindset, but into that kind of, again, experience, for lack of a better word, right? And
Right.
that honestly is also equally as important, in my opinion, as like quote unquote the macros of the protein and this and that. It's because your body is de-stressing, things like that. So tell me a little bit, chef, more about like, to kind of expand on that a little bit, like from what you said of really bringing that European style. And then, of course, with the classic dishes, I'd like you to kind of really dive further into an example of really someone that you've maybe served that really just understood and felt, more importantly, felt and experienced that kind of European, hey, slow down, let us and our team take care of you. Can you just give us like an example? I think it'd be really good for you to share that.
Yeah. You saw I posted something on social media in the last week, where I got a 5-star review on our Google business page, modernclassicalchefs.com. And they talked exactly about that, where about the experience, right? And they really enjoyed the food and how flexible we were able to be. They subbed in a last minute replacement on the vegetable they want. I'm like, no problem, no problem at all. Like we want we want our clients to feel that they're being served, and they're paying us a good dollar, and we want to make sure that they're fed right. So they feed you in Europe. Over here, yeah. I was just talking about this the other day. Like I went to Nobu in Atlantic City last year, took my wife there for the anniversary, and great restaurant, by the way, beautifully presented food, but we left
Uh-huh.
and we were hungry. And that left when I first took my wife to to a French restaurant. And by the way, I'm an Italian guy. I love to do French food because I love anything sauce based with wine, butter. Love it. Um, we went to a very exclusive French restaurant in Philadelphia, and this is before I really knew about that fine dining experience. And little tiny cubes of food with microgreens, which again, beautiful, but not my style. My style is like more of a French bistro where you're going to get good portions and you're going to be fed. And by the time dessert comes, you're already stuffed because you can't fit another thing in while you're getting dessert too. How about that?
Yeah, exactly.
And again, we slow it down. And when I first started out, it was because you don't have a brigade of chefs in the kitchen, in a restaurant. That's how they can bang out that food so fast. You or your sous chef, they're doing all the food. It's one-offs. You're cooking each course, then and there, and you're often constrained by the size of the client's kitchen. Some have bigger kitchens with more burners. Some have electric burners, and one burner doesn't work in the oven. You just got to use what you got. And you slow it down for these people. We're serving the wine, making sure our guests are taken care of, the bread, everything on the table, and they're all enjoying the experience, talking to their guests, enjoying the company, and that's the whole vibe that we want to bring.
I love that. What would you say, Chef, your one of your signature things is in regards to like your services? Like, what is? I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of signature dishes that you do, but what are some of the signature dishes that you actually love serving your clients?
My biggest and most requested is my cognac shrimp. I do this a lot. So again, now we
Ooh.
don't push. Yeah, we don't push anything on it. Like, we're not that kind of, food delivery service that says, okay, everybody, here's this week's menu, take it or leave it, buy your dishes, buy your bowls, whatever. We we go through a meticulous process with our clients that I learned from you as part of this process you're doing, in your business. And we find out the likes, the dislikes. This We have 10 people. One of them has celiac. Okay. I'd say about 30% of our clients have some kind of allergy issue, and we work around that. I'll take certain things off the menu right there. Like no pasta. For me, you got to give the full pasta. You can't do the gluten-free stuff. But we'll do something a little special, right? It's like, okay, we're going to do your dish, but it's going to have this twist on it instead of, that, so we can be compliant. We're going to do a dessert like I did in my last event. I did this French raspberry yogurt cake, but the recipe called for flour, but you could also use corn flour, which is cornstarch. And I said, okay, this time I'm going to make it with cornstarch, and turned out amazing. Everybody could eat it, and the gluten-free person, obviously, was no issue with her. But that signature dish, and again, these are things that the people like and they agree on, is the cognac shrimp. So I don't use jumbo, I use colossal shrimp. And I give them a good portion. I'll give them four colossal shrimp. Saute the shrimp, a little bit of butter, a little bit of olive oil, then hit it with shallots, deglaze it with some cognac, and then put it back in with a little bit more butter. And then we have chopped tomatoes, and we finish it with cream and chives, and it's amazing. The people love it. That little shot of cognac really makes it sweet, and it's a wonderful dish.
Now, do you flame it up? The guests like it when you flame it up?
Well, if I'm cooking table side and they want to do it, absolutely. If not, then I'm in the kitchen away from them. So generally, I just want that alcohol to burn off real fast so I can get on with it and get on with the service. But no, it's like, again, whatever. If And people, like, they come up to us and they're like, "Can we watch you?" And I'm like, "Oh man, this is like chef stuff. This is what goes on. You can't see this, or we're gonna have to shoot you." It's like, everybody laughs. It's like, "Oh, you have a curtain?" Like, what do you mean? Well, this is like the wizard, right? You got to have the curtain. You can't see what's going on behind. Oh, Dan, you're so silly. Just, whatever. You have a good time with them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I think that I think that people like, again, they like that experience as well, right? They love
Right.
seeing the fancy dancy. I actually am pulling up. I hope you don't mind. I'm actually pulling up the the review that you had. I think there's one. This one was one day ago. Was it from your client Nai? Ni?
Yeah, nice. So I had
Nai.
two events, and this is the way it goes in this business, right? Sometimes, it's a little bit of time between calls, but I got like on a Wednesday, I got two calls. This was one client on a Wednesday, and she wanted to do a dinner for her parents on a Friday. And then another one called me Wednesday and wanted to do a big dinner party in Bucks County, Pennsylvania on a Saturday. So we were able to pull those both off. And this is one of my services. Like, I want to tell this to some of the chefs out there that might overlook this. And I do modern classic dining for two, right? And to me, I like doing those because it's more intimate and I can really open up my menu. Because if you're trying to cook like duck with a, framboise sauce or something like that and trying to do that for 10, 15 people, that's hard. But you can open up your menu for two people and it's much more intimate. And generally, like they'll be seated at the kitchen island, right off the kitchen, and they're watching you, and you bring the food out and sauce it in front of them. They love it. And
Oh,
that's what this couple was. This was a dinner for two.
well, I'm going to read this if you don't mind.
Not at all.
This is going to be great. So, um, they said, phenomenal service. Chef Dan is the best and a master of his work. I had planned a last minute dinner for my parents' anniversary on October 10th, and Chef Dan was able to assist immediately. I set up a conference call on his website, which was easy to use, and I was able to pick a time that worked around my schedule. After picking a consultation time, he called me exactly at 2 p.m., and in minutes, the date, time, and menu were set for October 11th. I even emailed him to change a side dish, and he immediately responded the day of. Chef Dan arrived on time, was very professional and sociable. It felt as though I've known him my whole life. He decorated the dining room table, including a personal menu, and had my parents in awe. I reviewed over 20 different chefs' work, and none could compare to Chef Dan's creativity, uniqueness, and charisma. I even asked my mom to pick which chef's work she preferred out of the 20 other, and she too selected Chef Dan. It was meant. I don't post a lot, and my mom is a very harsh critic, especially when with trying different dishes, but she enjoyed everything, especially Chef Dan's signature dish, the cognac shrimp with scallops and tomato cream sauce. My mom said the surf and turf were delicious, and my stepfather licked all of his plates clean, including the cheesecake for dessert. I'll be definitely be booking Chef Dan again, and you should too. Just wanted to really share that with everyone because I think again, it's a constant reminder, Chef, and we've talked about this before as well, right? With in regards to just even like you were saying, and what I love how the review said, not only were you positioning that kind of beautiful experience that you really catered to what was going on, right? Getting them to slow down, getting them to enjoy each other, really bringing that European feel. But then on top of it, that European feel doesn't just start when you're in their house. It actually, she was listing like it was so easy to use the website, it was easy to book with them, it was easy to consult. And I think that so many times we think that again, the food has to be good. Clearly, they loved the food, and you were describing the cognac shrimp right now. And honestly, I just ate a steak sandwich for lunch. We were talking about that before the show. Okay, I do these little steak sandwiches with tomato and hot peppers, whatever. And I think I can still throw down some shrimp right now. If I, like I'm still hungry enough to throw down some shrimp. But I just wanted to share that because the biggest thing for me is as well is we need to look at the approach, like you're saying, at what
Mhm.
the client of really catering to them, and not for the lack of a better term of catering, but again, just really giving them the experience from start to finish.
Right.
And I mean, this is a great client, right? 20 people that I think they even, it sounds like they've used 20 other chefs. Was that correct?
They've used other chefs, but they, and boy, when you're done, there's a whole lot to unlock in that review that I want to go over when,
Yeah,
when it's
please.
my turn. But, well, first of all, it's about the process, right? So again, for those watching, Chef Andres, he's my mentor and helped develop my brand. Everything that you all know me for, it was through Chefpreneur, and that's why I'm so grateful to be on here and tell other people.
Oh, I
But
appreciate that.
you know, there's plenty of chefs out there that can cook the pants off of me, no doubt. But there's not plenty of chefs out there that can out personality me, and that's where it comes in. So I knew I had something. I knew I could cook. I have a great personality. I love engaging with people, and that review right there says it. So, but it's a process, and the chefpreneur model, they teach you the process. So what this client referred to, she went through our website, and professional, like I want to out professionalize the other guy too, right?
Yeah,
And so you come to my website, and by the way, they found me. I track this metric too. Like, I ask every client, how did you find me? Oh, we looked on Google and you came up at the top. So when you search private chef or personal chef, South Jersey, or it's my area, names will come up. So that's when she said probably 20 chefs were on there, but I came towards the top.
I love it.
Spent a lot of time ranking with SEO. That's another topic. But they were able to contact me. I have a process on the back end of my website, and it shows my calendar availability to the client, and they could pick that time, so which was 2 p.m. happened to be for this one. When they schedule that consultation, it goes right into my calendar and hard coded. I didn't even know about this. I was going home one day, the same day she did that. She scheduled the consultation. I looked, I'm like, oh, I got a 2 o'clock. Great. I'll be home at 1:40. Perfect. So we had the consultation. And that's a whole process. You want to find out the likes, the dislikes. Are there any
Yep.
allergies? Are there anything we need to concern about? And we do this kind of interview. In this case, it was pretty easy because she kind of steered me what they like. And then you go through the back and forth. Well, what do you think about this menu? Oh, I like that, but let's change the vegetable, which she did. Okay, how you like this? Fantastic. Let's do it. So we send out the deposit request to hold the date, and that's all again done through the back end of my website. Everything is seamless, neat, and easy for the client. And at the conclusion of services, they pay you for the balance, and it's neat. You don't have to hassle them. When you're there, hey, well, we got the balance due here. Don't worry about it. Just hit me when you're ready tomorrow, whatever it is. They do it. It's fantastic. It's systems.
Systems. I love that, chef. Thank you for sharing that. I think, on the podcast, we've talked in the past in the podcast, of course, I've done a lot of training and things like that, but I can't stress enough how important those things are. And there's a lot of times where, like you said, right? I mean, people think, oh, it's Chef Andre, chefpreneur, like, oh, he's such a great chef, cooking wise and all that. I mean, I could cook pretty good, right? But there's far more talented chefs than I am, just like what you were saying. Far, far more talented chefs. But the processes and the systems and being consistent is so key, right? So when they book you back, right? When they book you again, I mean, they might just shoot you a text because they say, hey, it's just our family member, Dan, right? But they're going to go through the same process. It's going to be easy breezy. And the
Right.
fact is that really, well, again, if we're trying to take stress off of people's life, especially you, really what your goal is in modern classical chefs is really, again, that laid back, but at the same time, not just laid back necessarily, but again, slowing down. But then that ease, if they get frustrated, it just causes you're not, the experience, even though it's like, some people are like, well, the experience was so easy. But even though I'm not good with computers or whatever, I mean, we have clients from all types, right? But the fact is that it made, like, they literally said that in the review, like it was
Right.
easy. And that already, again, gives them some level of like, that was great. Like, I mean, you look at companies like Uber, right? And Uber, the reason why they completely transformed the taxi industry is not because, yes, they're giving all these side gigs to a lot of people. It's that the ease of, I don't have to stand out in the rain like the old classic movies in New York City, right?
It gets
And
splashed by the puddle as you're
yeah, they
standing on the
splash by
corner.
the puddle. You're trying to wave it down. They got the New York Times newspaper over
Yeah,
their head, trying to.
yeah,
And no, you just sit in the hotel lobby, drink your martini, and call your Uber and be done with it, right? So, I mean, the real truth of it is ease. So, um, oh, I'm really glad to hear all that, Chef. Thank you for opening up, and I hope that, again, a lot of people got to see the insight of what your heart is and really what your business is and what you're trying to accomplish with Modern Classical Chefs, not only, again, as a personal chef company, but individually there, with you putting your heart and soul into that. And again, you and your team being able to provide those experiences to really get, again, people to slow down. Like, that is something that, again, I have a lot of clients I've cooked for in my career where they'll literally come back from, like, 3 months ago from a trip for a month or something to Italy, right? And they come back and they're not in Italy anymore, right? They're in San Diego. They're back to a little bit of the grind, a little bit of the hustle. They were entrepreneurs. I'm talking about the Santana family. Shout out to them. They're amazing people. And before they retired, they're running, like basically a security firm. And they come back, they're at work, they're getting it done, but they want to bring the family again together. And they would even give me hints of, like, this is what we experience in Italy. Like, can we
right,
create something like that? Now they live in Rancho Santa Fe, beautiful, like, valleys in the backyard, really, really picturesque. So it kind of looked a little bit like Tuscany, but it's like, let's light some candles, let's set the tone, let's eat outside,
right,
let's eat al fresco, like, and then let's serve things family style. We're passing around, little kids are running around, everybody's having belly laughs, passing around the pasta. And I think I remember I did like a chicken scallopini with capers and lemon, and they loved it. And the biggest thing was, we're not in Italy, right? But we're experiencing to get together with the family again, like we did 3 months ago on our trip,
right.
and really just getting that nostalgia. So thank you for sharing. So, Chef, now that we've kind of talked again about your business, and again, you can feel free to plug that in whenever you'd like. I'd like you to even just ask me any questions for our audience of, like, anything that you might want to discuss today, whether it's with the business, whether it's just maybe our thoughts on the industry as a whole. Like, I want to give you the floor and open it up for you.
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because I follow you. I mean, I see you on my social media feeds every day, and of course, I know you on a more personal basis. But my business launched. I was thinking about that before I came on earlier this morning, and September 22 is when my website launched. So I'm out there for over 2 years. Doing this.
Yeah.
What's changed? Like, I see your different programs rolling in. Now you got like Chefpreneur University, which, thank you, I got a certificate. It's hanging on my wall behind me
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
But like, what are you seeing now from the people? Is your message resonating with them? Do
That's a
they
good question.
see? Because like I see these, I talk to chefs and everything when I'm out, and they're like, oh, I'm working here, I'm working there, and I say, I never want to have a restaurant because I don't like that whole thing with the guys berating you and you got to pay your dues and you got to work holidays. Like, what are the people, are they resonating with that, or they get it now? Like, what are you seeing now?
That's a Honestly, that's a fantastic question, because you're opening it up for me to kind of maybe share some deeper vision on what I've seen since we've started this almost 6 years ago. And that's a great question. In fact, man, these last couple podcasts, Amber asked me some good ones. That's probably the best question I've been asked so far, to be honest. I think it's funny you mention it, because right now, even with Chefpreneur, we're looking at, you know, it's really hard to coach and mentor people to a degree because there's only so much someone can do from one side, right? But at the same time, things are always evolving and changing. So you're trying to take what we try to do as chefpreneurs. We're always going to follow the recipe and the method that we have really known that works. Okay.
Right.
But then there's things always evolving, right? Like, again, actually, I'll just go back. You know me really well, Dan. And for those of you guys that have been listening to the podcast now for a little bit, like, I love metaphors because my brain thinks way better that way, and I can communicate way better that way. But as I was talking about Uber, right? Uber changed the landscape of that. And
Yeah.
when you go back to when they started, which I don't think a lot of people know, not that this whole podcast about Uber, but I actually was in New York cooking for a client a long time ago. This was pre-Chefpreneur. And I remember I was getting a ride to Whole Foods. It sounds very, this sounds very like maybe hotty toddy, as we would say, right? A little bit snobby, but I went there with the client, flew in his private plane, blah, blah, blah. I stayed on the Upper East Side. I felt like I was living the dream because it was his debit card, not mine. And he wanted me to take Uber Black everywhere. So Uber Black would show up, a Cadillac Escalade, a Lincoln Navigator, an S500 Mercedes, just to go to Whole Foods is like $180 one way. It was ridiculous. Okay, it's New York. Okay. But, I was there to cook for him and his family. And, I was asking the Uber driver, like, hey, like, do you like Uber? And he's like, well, Uber started where we were just trying to help basically like limousine, livery drivers in New York, specifically in New York, just, they're usually waiting for a client to take them to the airport at 5. They might have an airport ride. And again, they get paid very well, but they take a very high end client to the airport in the morning, maybe a couple pickups in the afternoon, but there's a lot of downtime in between. And if they're not like scheduled, they didn't really have an ability to like pick up extra runs or extra drives or whatever. And so Uber started just in New York with delivery limo drivers. And the reason I'm telling this whole backstory is because, it evolved into now everybody can ride Uber, right? And
Yeah.
there's pros and cons of that. Well, when I really started seeing that people were not only in this industry that were like me, that were really beyond overworked, frustrated that I couldn't see my children. That was the biggest thing for me. And on top of it, wanting to start my own business and be my own boss and have be an owner. I didn't want to shell out $1 million in the restaurant. I didn't want to shell out hundreds of thousands of dollars in any kind of operation. And but I wanted to be my own boss. So that's how it started, right? What has evolved and what we have seen, as weird as it sounds, it's like, as we've helped and coached chefs, not only has our programs evolved, right? Our method is the same, just like you were saying. Actually, I love what you said earlier, Chef Dan, was like, there's the classics of like your shrimp dish or like the classic tableside Caesar, but there's modern twists to certain things that you're doing. Okay.
Right.
And so, like, our method as chefpreneur that you went through, that a lot of people have gone through, that's not going to change. What has evolved though is the tactical side of certain pieces of it that really keep up with what's going on. So I think chefs are still getting more burnt out. I think that there's still a lot of that still happening. And in fact, we all know that inflation is through the roof right now. We all know that the cost of everything has gone up. So in that industry, restaurants are earning less. And here's the thing though, like specifically in the restaurant industry, salaries are not going up.
Yeah. Yeah. They're still
Unfortunately,
working just as hard, right?
they're working just as hard, and it's kind of stagnant. A lot of times they're moving things around to get someone. I wouldn't, and I don't want to say this in a rough way, but it's just the truth. They're wanting to go the cheaper route with maybe a young green chef because they can pay less and still kind of have maybe somebody up here in the organization, even if it's a small restaurant, kind of calling more of the shots and kind of, here's the recipes the other big chefs came up with, just follow them and manage. So they're almost like kitchen managers. And then it just hasn't been good. So the reason also that I would say this, and I think that chefs are taking a hold. And what we are noticing, and this is actually, I mean, this was a timely question. over the last like 30 days, I felt like I've gotten a lot of vision directly from the Lord that Chefpreneur, the movement, is going to be the biggest discipleship and mentorship in this industry. I think that we're already ahead of it. I think we're already like probably one of the leaders in coaching and mentoring, of course. But when I say discipleship, people need more one-on-one support. They need more kind of hand holding and people doing it with them. You came from like South Philly.
Non-culinary.
Yeah, not culinary, South Philly, worked your way up through the ranks of kind of a blue collar, kind of ended up in that corporate, I maybe call it white collar. But the fact is Chef Dan, is most chefs do not know technology. They do not know tactical marketing skills. I would say your skill set, I'll still say this for the whole world to hear, just FY side convo or side note, like Chef Dan was probably one of the best at the sales training that I've ever coached anybody on. Like he caught on real quick. I remember the first time we did a mock call with each other, I think you scored like an 8.5 out of 10, which is like the most I've ever given anybody. So you did a really good job. But most of these chefs don't have those skill sets. Okay. And it's really hard to teach anybody anything sometimes from a screen. What's so funny is we have access to information, we have courses, we have knowledge, there's YouTube, there's all these things. People don't have the time, or unfortunately sometimes the dedication to go through a process or a program or training and then actually execute on those things.
Right.
And so in one side of your question, I do believe that chefs are still not only hurting, I think it's actually gotten worse. And a lot of chefs are starting to wake up to what other possibilities are. So that is number one. So Chefpreneur is going to be, I believe, has already been a game changer. But what the vision that God has given us is it's just really begun, in my opinion. But the second piece of it, how we've also are feeling like people need more one-on-one. The world has gotten so, kind of actually lines up with modern classical chefs a little bit. The world
Yeah.
has gotten so digital. It's gotten so turn or burn. It's gotten so mass of just seeing somebody on YouTube and that's it. And we're actually now repositioning a lot of our training to be one-on-one. In fact, this last couple of weeks, I've been offering more one-on-one coaching with certified coaches coming into it, because that we're training up constantly, and we don't have tons of people we're coaching right now are certified coaches, but we do have a few. But I'm starting to realize now that we want to give the ability to chefs like yourself to step into a certified chefpreneur role as kind of a, I don't even know if you would call it a side work, but not even a side hustle. It's more of how to actually help other people through the platform of Chefpreneur by saying, hey, I want to actually coach somebody or help someone because I'm a step ahead of them or I'm 2 steps ahead of them, and
Yeah.
leveraging Chefpreneur. So this new vision, again, it's newer. But it's the same material, same method, but it's the way that we're delivering it. We just have found over the last 5 years that the most amount of success we get with chefs is the people that have been mentored and coached one-on-one. And
Right.
success doesn't always just mean numbers either, right? Like, of course, we need to earn money and we want to hit goals and we want to be full-time and all these things. But the real truth of it is there's other levels of success where it's like, without the help of someone, they probably won't even start. They probably would never even try to attempt. And so we are constantly looking at that. Now, on the tactical side, which I know you haven't asked about yet, but we are now expanding more into that, a lot of different walks of life, which is the reason, again, going back to the one-on-one, we want to do more white glove, just like you do in your business, just like we do in our personal chef business as
Yeah.
well. We want to do more white glove. Okay, this chef is coming in. They're already doing 80 grand a year. What do they need? What are the things that we see are the gaps? And how do we just give them coaching on that to get them to another step or another level? Then someone might come in. We're starting from the ground up. What do we have? How can we produce their business for them? Help them build it, or however you want to say it. So we're starting to go that way. And I was actually just on a meeting with Brock. By the way, he said hello. He wanted me to tell you a big hi from him. We were on our meeting today, and we had a great meeting. And he has huge visionary plans for Sue. He is completely dedicated to Sue now, and it's really exciting. But we were talking about how there's a lot of people that do have food trucks. They have owned their owners of restaurants, and they're doing okay here and there. And we're also now looking at how do we even help them to create those other branches of their business. Hey, if they have a restaurant already, not why not send a person on their staff as a personal chef to someone's home and do a private event? Like, right? How
Right.
do we? So that was probably a very long-winded answer, but I really got excited because the vision. I felt like it was a lightning bolt, and I have to thank Chef Cinnamon for it as well because I was talking to her and it kind of came up to like, and just we've known that the data has shown us that the more people that get one-on-one help,
Right.
um, they have a higher chance of success. It's not always automatic because it's not, because there's two sides and there's different things going on, but they have the highest level of success and probability of success because of that one-on-one atmosphere. And the old school, I think I was talking to Chef, was it Chef Joe yesterday? Shout out to Chef Joe. I was on a little strategy call with him yesterday. Great guy. And he went through an apprenticeship program in culinary school, right? It was actually more of apprenticeship in Keystone, Colorado, where he was literally working in a hotel and then transcended into education. But like it was like kind of a working school, if you may, from what I kind of understood. And the chef business and being a chef was like that for many years. You didn't really have culinary schools. You apprenticed under some French chef, like you said, that
Right.
would probably burn your knuckles, every day. But you learned pretty quick and you learned good. So um, I think that we're taking to the university. The reason why we really put out the university is because we wanted our base core of our online training and online education to be very, very robust and very in depth. And we decided, like, okay, we're going to have, I mean, it's over 180 training videos. It's a massive thing. But the fact is like, it's not about the sheer number of the videos and the training that we do. It's about how much more in depth and robust everything from paid advertising to all forms of marketing, email marketing, a full training on all of that, even more in depth. So we needed as well a foundational educational online educational piece combined with the one-on-one hand holding to get people to where they need to go. I don't even know. Hopefully that answered your question, kind of.
Yeah, like there's a few things I want to comment on there. And number one is about, having a coach. So, you know me, I do a lot of networking. I'm out, a few times a week, networking, and I talk to my people, and they're, oh, I would never get a coach because, let's take a guarantee the results, I'd never pay that money. And I'm like, well, why would you go it alone? Right? Like, okay, I have a skill set, okay, but I don't know how to scale it the way you did, so I don't know how to form a business. Why would I want to go through all that by myself
Yeah.
and struggle? Why not tap into somebody that's done it? That's why I hired you, because you specifically work in this business, and you definitely fulfilled that niche, and then some. And then, now you're doing these different modules, which is good. But I think like a couple things, like number one, you're talking about these chefs and what they have. A big thing that you might want to incorporate is, how do you translate these, haute cuisine restaurant style dishes into home cooking? Because
Yeah.
I often find myself like, how do I, like, I want to do so much, but I'm limited by my client's kitchen, so I kind of have to adapt a lot of things and make it work what I have there.
Yeah.
That's something. And then the ever present marketing thing. So I spend a lot of time, on marketing. How am I going to do this? I have bunch of people on my network. I know if I throw thousands of dollars a month, I can do everything, but often, I don't have a budget like that. So I have to do a lot of this stuff learning, and social media is part of it. And now going back to that review that you mentioned earlier, they found me, on a Google search. So now I'm starting to rank. But a
Yeah.
lot of people, and I know because I see some of those people comment on your threads. I'm like, these people don't get it. Some of them are kind of mean and nasty, and they want the instant hit. Everything these
Yeah.
days is instant,
Correct.
and this is a long game. Like everyone that of my colleagues and my network that does marketing, it's a long game. And now, I'm working on my third year. It's starting to pay a little dividends, but people don't understand that.
Yeah.
You have to put the time in. Like if you hire a coach, you have to put the time in and take to heart the lessons you're being taught. And if you don't, then that's on you. It's not that, oh, Chef Andres was a terrible coach because I didn't make $1 million in 2 weeks. No, it's like, did I
Yeah.
follow what he told me to do? Oh, I guess I didn't, and that's on me.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that comment. It's so hard, Chef, because and it's not, it's not a scapegoat, right? Like there's a lot of bad coaches too,
You
obviously.
got to put the work in. You got to
You
put
got
the
to put
work
the
in.
work in. You got to put the work in. And honestly, like, I think part of, and there's humility in what I'm about ready to say is when I first started this, because I was seeing success in my business. Now I didn't have the coach. God, I honestly, I wish I don't even know. Honestly, I look back if somebody was able to do what I've helped people do to me when I first started, I don't even know where I'd be at. Like, I think I'd be like twice as far, to be honest with you, because the momentum would have picked up a lot sooner than when it did. But the real truth of it is, I also see that as a blessing for me to be able to help people. Yes. But like the real truth of it is like business is never going to be easy. There can be things that make it a lot easier and there's a lot faster paths to take, definitely with a coach, right? Like, and there's
Absolutely.
only certain things that people can help you do. Like, and Michael Jordan could teach you how to dribble and how to play a decent level of basketball over the course of, let's say you spend 3 months with the guy, right? First of all, I don't even know how much that would cost. It'd be ridiculous, right? Like, you'd have to be a multimillionaire just to have that privilege. Okay. But you're probably not going to hit the court being Michael Jordan. Clearly, that's not going to happen, right? And so, like you said, I think there is this industry, and I think it goes beyond any industry. It's funny because every single thing that you have, when you really look at the depths of it, it's never instant. There's instant wins, but it's a long term. And one of the things, I was reading your sheet here, just even to dive more into marketing, one of the biggest takeaways that I want everybody to realize and everybody to write down, and even for you, Dan, like, I'm realizing the number one thing that will continue to drive levels of success is to be consistent. I mean,
Yes.
it's
Consistency.
such an easy concept. And honestly, I will self admit this, hold my hand up, put my hand on the heart. I was not consistent in Chefpreneur with a lot of our marketing. We were sending emails sometimes we weren't. Sometimes we were running ads, sometimes we weren't. And what happens is that, like, here's what sucks and here's what happens. Now maybe I'm just even speaking for me for a minute here, because that's the only way that I can speak for myself. Is we sometimes look at, well, I'm sending emails, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing this networking, or I'm doing this, and we go down 2 months down the road and we're like, it's not working. Now there's levels of it that probably are not working. And by the way, this is not to get away from any kind of optimization, right? We can
Right.
always optimize and make things better. But it's really easy to throw in towels, and then we get frustrated and we stop. There's that old meme that you've probably seen where
The guy
there's like,
digging for the gold.
yeah, and then they like
Yeah.
stop like a foot before they hit the jackpot,
Right.
right? And the whole reason why it symbolizes that is, like, I think there's levels of that. There's levels of, like, am I going to quit the business? I mean, even chefs that have come to us in Chefpreneur, I can't even tell you how many people which I've gotten a lot of. I've been really emotional with chefs on the phone before that are in the industry. I know that you didn't come from that background, but where I'm talking to them and I just start asking them some deeper questions, and they get really emotional about, I love this. I love cooking. I love being a chef, but I can't do it anymore. My body, my carpal tunnel, my body, or I have a family. I don't see my kids. My wife, I'm on my second wife. She's wanting to divorce me, or like, I mean, sometimes it's so heart wrenching, and they don't realize that there's another option. And so, like, but even on a bigger scale with that little gold mining metaphor, right? That little imagery there, it's like they're willing to even give up in the industry. They're even thinking about, well, I want to go learn IT now because like I'm just done with this, right? Because but I already know what's going to happen. They're going to go through, they're going to do IT, they're going to hate it, and within 2 years they're going to probably pick up some job just cooking somewhere because they're just going to, because it's in their heart, it's in their spirit, it's their passion. They love food. And then you have, when they get in the business, they're going to hit roadblocks as well. They're going to hit walls, and it's going to be very difficult. And again, they're going to want to give up. But the consistency is key. And, when you really think about all the greats in business of any sort, I mean, I don't care if you're talking about, Chick-fil-A's backstory with Esther Caffey, how they were almost bankrupt like 5 times. They weren't turning a profit for 12 years. Okay, or Sam Walton when he opened up Walmart and there was already 250 Kmart's out there, and everybody's like, "You're an idiot! Like you're going to get crushed." Here we are in 2024. Where's Kmart? Where's Walmart? Right? Um, all these types of things, they're used as inspirational stories, but the common denominator is, was one of them smarter than the other? Well, they probably got insights over the years. They got insights while they were waiting for it to break, making adjustments. But the one common denominator is none of them gave up. Everybody continued to pursue. And so, like, now here's what sucks about this business, particularly this industry at times. You could be doing so much consistent work and it's
Yeah.
paying off here and there. But for some reasons, what happened in my business, what I've seen happen to many people that we've coached, from one day to the other, sometimes it just breaks. The levee breaks and it just floods. And you're like, what the hell just happened? And it's because all these seeds planted eventually
Right.
start to produce a harvest, right? And so, um, but
I got to
again,
interject something
please.
right there. Like everything you're saying to me. So these little nuggets, I've told you this before, you impart these little nuggets that stayed in my head. And sometimes I'll be stopped dead in my tracks and I'll hear your voice in there that you need to do this, you need to do this. So let me tie a story with everything you just said right there. So there's a saying, like I'm into stocks and investing. I love all that. I think it was Warren Buffett. He said it's not timing the market, it's time in the market, right?
That's
So
good.
to your point, that person that was, that spilled their heart out to you and, I can't do it anymore, whatever, whatever. They're down at their lowest, time. And they just have to tough it out. You have to keep plugging ahead. Like I never said I'm going to quit this, and it's the time in the market. All the business owners I talk to, they've been at it a lot longer than me. This isn't like a get rich quick scheme. It's a get rich long scheme, right?
Yeah.
So time in the market or time in your business, right? And then secondly, I had a real bad slump this summer, like July through early September. I'm like, man, like I was supposed to be crushing it at the Jersey Shore and it was slow. And I was going on the Thursday Chefpreneur calls with Jared and Elizabeth, and Jared's like, "Hey, are you doing your strategic partnerships? Things like that." And then I realized, you know what? All the things I was taught, I kind of got away from them. And what am I doing different now that things are slow that I was doing before and they were working? And I started thinking about these little things. So I started going over my notes and started going over my trainings and
Mm.
even gave up like networking. I'm like, oh, I'm tired of meeting the same people. I was like, no, like you need to get out there. And then all of a sudden I got back into the swing of things and then, things started to pick up again. And a nugget that you put in my head, you said you're going to have ups and downs. And then you're going to go through some big downs, and that's when it's going to happen for you. Then all of a sudden, you're going to have your breakthrough. And if you quit before you get that breakthrough, like that guy, digging in the gold mine, he's so close to it, then you're never going to achieve it. So you got to hang with it. You got to be consistent, and you just got to keep plugging away, and your time will come.
I love that, man. It's just it's wise information, wise wisdom right there. And again, man,
Experience.
it just, and it's what it is. And so like in the mission, like the mission has to be greater than the pain. Like in
Right.
Chefpreneur, right? Like, this is pretty vulnerable for me to say here on this podcast, but Chefpreneur has been hell at times, like big time, right?
No.
The amount of money that, we've invested into this, the amount of time we've invested into this. Um, I keep telling people, if I would have been doing this for money, like, I don't know if I should even started if it was all for money, because it's not like it's been producing, and not that it's not producing, but we reinvest. We invest in our team. We've invested in different things. We've invested in coaches as well that have really helped us. And but it's a movement that we've started that, like, when you're the first blazing a trail, you're the arrowhead. You're going to take the biggest hit. You're going to take the bullet. You're going to take the impact. And the mission is far greater. Just being on this podcast with you and hearing you and seeing you, and these last 2 years even that have gone by with the ups and downs, and
Yeah.
we don't wish that on anybody. We get that. I mean, but then at the
Part of
same
the
time,
process.
yeah, but at the same time, the success of what is the character and what is the sharpening that has been instilled in Chef Dan to this point in his life. Like, and I bet you would agree with this statement. It's true false statement here. Do you feel like the last 2 years you've earned another 3 PhDs in life, right?
1000% true.
1000% true, right? And then we have to wonder again, which I won't go into the whole success stuff, but I'm starting to realize, like, people can't take that from me. People can't take my heartache, my pain, my will to succeed, my will to, honestly, why we do this in the first place is we truly actually give a damn about people. We love helping chefs. And there's highs for them, there's highs and lows for us. Same. But the fact is, it's the mission. It's what is the reason we're doing it, which is all of you. This is why even our strategy, actually not even strategy is like kind of the how to, but the vision that these chefs need more one-on-one help. They need more one-on-one mentorship. They need, because here's what we're noticing. And I think you would agree with this, Dan, because you literally had my coaching one-on-one for a long
Right.
time. It's not only the tactical how-tos, right? But it's the pep talks, it's the encouragement, it's the feeding, not fluff, but the prayer at times where you're just like, Chef, I'm feeling down. And
Yeah.
Andres comes along and has to give you that jolt of, dude, keep going, man. Like, let's go. And to be honest, we sometimes think that doesn't move us ahead. But in realisticness, I own, and I'm going to try not to cry here on this podcast today, but there's a lot of credit I owe to my wife, because she sees me behind the scenes more frustrated than probably anybody realizes at times. And she's the one that says, hey, look at the success stories. Look at the people that you've impacted, right? And I'm not taking all the credit for your success or anybody. I'm saying, but my fulfillment comes from sowing seed into people. And
Yeah.
that's what I believe what God has called me to do, right? And
Oh
so I'm
yeah.
sitting here and she'll tell me, remember what this is for. Like, can I say Chefpreneur is an absolute success right now? 100% now, because I now see it very differently. I mean, it's been success since day one, right? Any
Yeah.
any life change, any life helped. But there's times where you're looking at the bank account. There's times where you're like, I got to make payroll. There's times where you're like, man, I got to push harder. But it just one life change, it's worth it all, right? So Oh, did I lose you? There you are. And so the biggest thing for me, Dan, is what you said. So it really it resonates a lot with, and I think with a lot of people, the mission has to be greater than the pain. The reason why has to be greater than the experience that you're going through at times. And there's a lot of people. This is just, I think this is a good kind of segue into kind of wrapping the show up, because there's something really, really deep in me right now that I feel like a lot of people need to hear. There's a lot of reasons to say, I'm done, I quit. You just got to have one good reason to say, keep going and say yes. The fact is that yes has to be more strong than the 15 different reasons of why to say no or give up. And so,
Absolutely.
um, and it's worth it. It's worth it because yes, we get into business. Yes, finances need to be a thing. It's not like we're trying to make hobbies here. But this client that you just served, Chef Dan, to them, they are really, really, really blessed and very, very grateful that you have started your business and you have done that, because 20 other chefs they looked at, but they chose you and they selected you. If you weren't in front of them and you weren't there, what experience would they have gotten?
Right.
Would that have, I think it was an anniversary, right?
Yep.
Their parents' anniversary, where would they have been? What would that
Right.
anniversary have looked like, right? So, and again, it's not a life or death situation for your clients, but that's a reason why to say, I want to do more of that for people, not for the just, of course, not for the money. We need the money, we need the investments, and we need all the income, whatever. But that's the reason why you do what you do. Is how I gave them a piece of modern classical chefs. I gave them a piece of Europe. I gave them that experience. I gave them what I set out to do, and that's such a blessing, man. It's such a blessing. And so, Dan, do you want to say any last words before we kind of end the show
Yeah.
today?
Once again, I always love talking to you because, I have your number on speed dial still, but I leave you alone because you got other chefs you got to bring along. So don't think I forgot about you. That's why I lay low. But I know where to get you if I have a question. But yeah, just the biggest thing, and by all means, people, I'm not a multimillionaire here. I'm plugging away, but I have those same concerns, just like Andre said, that, I left a six-figure paying job with a beautiful bonus structure, and I took a leap of faith to do this. Okay. That's what I walked away from. I got a wife. I said, give me 3 years, honey. Just please give me 3 years. We just had a big anniversary a couple weeks ago, and I would have loved to take her to Italy, or, do a big trip. And, I did the best I could do, but she supports me, and she says, you got to do what you got to do, Dan. And I'm like, oh, thank God, she's on board. I don't want to lose that. But, we're human and we go through these, and that's where the coaching comes in, right? Because you need someone that's been there that can tell you, you know, when you're down, this is okay. This is what's going to happen, right? Then you need systems, right? This is where the program, comes in. Like, I was coached very well on systems, so I have that front end process down.
Yeah.
I have my back end process. I have this wonderful piece of software which we barely touched on called Sous, like Sous Chef, SOUS. That does that where the women reach me. It all goes through my website, ties into my calendar. My back end with my billings is there. It acts as my CRM. I can put little notes in there. Oh, I did this anniversary dinner and this is their anniversary. Now I have notes on all my clients. And you need those systems and processes. That's what's going to help you, beat the competition that's just doing the, hey, we're doing the weekly dish of the week thing or whatever. You're a pro. You hire a coach, it's respectable, and I strive to be a pro, and that's the way I interact with my clients. That's the way I always will. But I got those skills from our coaching and from the program, and you know that I'm always, eternally grateful for Chefpreneur, and glad to be part of the movement.
Wow, appreciate that, Dan. And by the way, this is just my own plug for you. If you are in the Philadelphia area, Jersey Shore, all the above, and you want to experience an amazing experience with one of the best guys I know, head over to modernclassicalchefs.com, set up a consultation with Dan. He's going to take great care of you, him and his team. And I just thank you for being on the show today, Chef. I really appreciate your time. It was such a pleasure. And if you guys have not subscribed yet to the podcast or subscribed to this YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. And again, we will see you guys next week. Take care and God bless.